Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. If you want to take your shooting experience to the next level, then check out Cole-TAC gear for 100% made in America products. Cole-TAC manufactures specialty gear designed for long-range shooting, hunting, and other tactical applications. From their support bags, suppressor covers, shooting mats, and a whole lot more, Cole-TAC is creating tough, durable, and innovative gear for both civilian and professional markets. Go to Colettac.com to see all that they have to offer. That's COLE-TAC.com. If you are looking to get a new rifle or build your own, look no further than Kelbley's. Kelbley's actions and rifles have a higher level of accuracy and hold 92 world records set on either one of their rifles or rifle actions. Whether you're looking for an ultralight mountain rifle or wanting to compete in precision rifle shooting, Kelbley's has you covered. Go to kelbley.com to find out more or give them a call as their customer service is the best. That's KELBLY.com. Kelbley's. If you're looking to take your hunting to another level, there's no better way to do it than by subscribing to onX Hunt. If you want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, onX is the #1 GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust onX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. If you want to know more about onX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt or download their app today for a free trial. If you are wanting to become more accurate and deadly with your shooting, one of the best things you can do is upgrade your trigger with a Timney. Timney triggers are 100% made in America and have been since their founding, providing a crisp, reliable, and repeatable trigger break every time. I'll be shooting Timney triggers in my guns this year, and I hope you'll join me in shooting the world's finest trigger. Go to timneytriggers.com to get yours today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today we are not talking about hunting. We are talking about becoming a better human. We're talking about stepping into the power in which we were created to be the men and women and leaders of this world the way we're supposed to. Because how can we ever lead at work? How can we ever lead our wives, our children, our co-workers? How can we lead in society if we can't lead ourselves? And when it comes down to it, it's all about perspective. It's about intention. It's about purpose. And today's guest is Coach Jacob Rowe from Weatherford High School down here in the great state of Texas, a fellow Texan, amazing man. And one of his things, I got to go to one of his talks one day, and it was all about winning the day leadership. Winning the day leadership. And a lot of people talk about leadership like, oh, leadership, like, oh, I'm the leader, follow me, or I'm the captain of the boat. Everyone has to listen to me. Leadership looks a lot different wherever you go. And so we're going to be talking about what it means to be a leader in your own life and what it means to be a leader wherever you go. Because just like we are ambassadors for hunting wherever we go, everyone's always watching. Everyone's always watching us and how we operate in society, how we parent, how we live our life with our spouse, how we interact with our coworkers, our boss, our whatever. So without further ado, Coach Rowe, how you doing, brother?
Hey, it's great to be here. And wow, what a great intro. Like that was, I thought maybe you'd have that scripted. That was great. Like you've done this before, I think, a time or two.
I've spoken a few times, But at the end of the day, like it says in the Bible, out of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Right. Like what you think about and what's on your mind a lot. It's amazing how you can just whip that thing out. There's a joke that coaches and preachers are always ready to jump up and say something. And there's no doubt, like when you're thinking about being a coach or being a pastor or whatever, like, hey, do you have something to say? I always have something to say.
Yep.
Like they always are ready to fire something out there. So I think it's great, man. That was a great job. I'm so excited to be here. My first podcast, so super excited to be a part of this.
Well, you're doing great already because you're here, right?
Hey, all right.
You're showing up.
Great.
And
all right. That's half the battle.
Isn't that a battle?
That's it.
Being a leader is about showing up.
No doubt. Like just being ready to roll every day.
So I really enjoyed, for those of you who are not familiar with like public education, teaching and all that, we have to go to professional development days, days where there is no kids at school, but yet teachers go to work. And during that day, there's usually different meetings or different learnings that you have to attend. And I had the privilege and the honor to listen to Coach Rowe talk about his win the day leadership. And as a former football coach and athlete, when I hear someone say win the day, I know exactly what they're talking about. And I didn't really know Coach Rowe before this. We met one time in the locker room passing. But when I heard this, I was like, okay, I got to get you on the podcast, brother.
Hey, don't oversell me. Okay, don't oversell me. No, that was great, man.
So, talk a little bit about this idea of winning the day, leadership, where it stems from. Obviously, you have a history. You were a college football player. You've been coaching. Like, that is your passion to pursue excellence,
Right,
wherever you go.
right.
Where does it all stem from for you? Where did it start?
So I had the pleasure of being around great leaders growing up. My father was one. He was a police officer at Dallas County Sheriff's Department, became a chief, was over there for 35 years. So there was at one point, he was in charge of over 5,000 people at one point. And so being able to be a part of growing up with him and seeing how he commanded the room and how he led people and was a part of TMPA, which was an association to make sure police officers are being taken care of and their pay's right. And he was president of that for a while. So I had the pleasure and the privilege of growing up with a guy to watch how he kind of commanded and led.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pulled a lot of my principles and teachings from that. But then on the flip side, absolutely one of the best leaders and biggest influencers is I was raised in the church. I was raised in the Bible. And there's not a better leader than Jesus. I mean, as far as loving people and being passionate and self-sacrifice. So being around that, and I love history. There's always great leaders in history that do these great things. So kind of being around that, you are what you see and what you surround yourself with.
Uh-huh.
I've had the pleasure of being around great coaches and my dad and being led in the faith where I've had the pleasure of being around great leaders. And so leadership is very natural to me. But the question is, what is leadership? Like, if you could define it, what is it? Now, you said earlier, like, hey, I'm captain of the boat, right? I'm the leader. Well, leadership is not necessarily a position.
Right.
And people get that messed up. They say, well, he's the boss, he's the leader. Well, he may be in a position of leadership, but that doesn't make him a leader. Leadership is a mindset. And leadership, really, if you want to get technical, is influence. If you influence the people around you, you are a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And like what you said earlier, we influence people all the time. We influence our spouses. We influence our children. We influence our coworkers. So really, you want to get down to it, everybody's a leader. It's just, are you a good one?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the question there.
Yeah.
And so being around that, being around great leaders, and that really kind of stemmed from that. I'm so blessed to be able to see great leaders do that. But leadership is a mindset, not just a position. And that's kind of where that started from early on in my life and went even through college and into my career.
Yeah, sphere of influence is such a fascinating thing because everyone has influence, right? Like nowadays it's, oh, are you a social media influencer?
Right.
Or in the hunting space, oh, you're a hunting influencer. It's like we're all influencers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you share the passion for the things you love with other people, right? Oh, hey, did you go to that new restaurant downtown? Oh, it's the best. You got to try it.
There you go. You're influencing their decision. Like, you're leading them to a certain way. And then, if it's not that good, you led them astray, right? But if it is really good, you took them to a great place. You're right. That's a great point.
Yeah. And so, my father, who was my high school football coach and very well renowned in the state of Washington, he always said, inspired people inspire people. When you live a life that it's inspired, then it's contagious.
They're very contagious. And we say this all the time. There's two things that are very contagious, which is passion or inspiration. You can take your word there. It's very contagious. And negativity. Those two things, passion and negativity, are the most contagious things you can be around. And they are going to influence those around you. So you're going to be passionate or you're going to be negative, because you're going to pull those around you down or up regardless, just because you're around them. Just being just in the same space as someone else, you are influencing their decisions based on your presence and your attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I saw on social media the other day, I love formerly known Twitter, X.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Like, I truly love that platform. I saw somebody say, the 10 responses that you always get from people when you ask them, how's their day? Oh, it's okay. I'm alive. Better than I deserve. Like, just
Sure.
like the how you doing? I'm okay. It's really interesting to see how we respond. And I talked about with you how this is before we started recording, life is a mirror, right? You get what you give. What you put out, you naturally return. Law of attraction, however you want to call it, like, at the end of the day, what you put out into this world is how you view it. That's what you what you see, what you come back. So you're saying influence, like positivity, inspiration, or negativity,
No doubt.
right? That
doubt.
naturally just starts oozing, coming back at you. And so when we are standing in our power, and that's one of the things I want people to gather from this podcast, is that all of us as individuals are powerful. It's whether or not we want to flex that power and we want to grow that power and work it out, just like, a bench press or bicep curls or, you ever heard of Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour rule?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. So Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book Freakonomics and a couple others, but the whole concept of what he talks about is if you do one thing and you do it for 10,000 hours, then you'll reach mastery.
Gotcha. Okay, I've heard the 10,000 hour mark. I didn't realize that was him. Okay.
Yeah. So 10,000 hours, mastery. So whatever you are constantly putting energy into or time into, or like if you are a depressed human being and you're doing depression day after day after day, you're going to be a master of it.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's such a mindset. And so the whole win the day kind of concept really came from the minute you wake up and your feet hit the floor, life is going to throw obstacles at you.
Mm-hmm.
And this life is not easy. And you see that just living life. And then, it's a law of entropy. Law of entropy is things naturally get worse, not better. So if anything is going to be better in your life, it has to be pushed by someone or by you. Naturally, life is not going to be any better. You take a 1965 Mustang and stick it in the front of the yard and come back in 20 years, it's going to be worse off than when you set it there. Like, it's going to get worse. So if anything is better in this life, it's because someone willed it to be better. And so that can be heavy sometimes. Like, there's days you don't want to get up and be a better version of yourself, and you don't want to it's tough. And so this mindset of win the day, in the sense of every day's a battle, and you have to train yourself and your mind to be ready to fight that battle. And be ready to become the better version of yourself, whatever that may be. And it's not a question of if obstacles are coming; it's when and how big. I mean, that's all there is to it. Like, you're either in a storm, getting out of a storm, or about to get into a storm. Like, there's no real peace. I mean, there's going to be a fight almost every single day. So you have to have the mindset of a fighter, and that you're going to be better. So that's where that win the day kind of came from. And then we get, you can get more specific into some of the things we talked about at that media day.
I want you to break it down for us.
And so it kind of breaks down into this. And what's cool is what I'm teaching here is I've pulled from other people a little bit and then kind of tailored it to what I think, and then actually applied it to some teams. So I was a head coach of a girls powerlifting team back 2 years ago, or in 2024. And so what's funny is, as your coach, you may not know this or not, I'm sure you do, but like, you have one sport, then you have a secondary sport. Well, when I was at the school I was a football coach, right? Football coach. Hey, here we go, football. Well, my second sport was girls powerlifting. Okay, and for those that don't know, powerlifting is bench, squat, and deadlift, and you go compete, and it's lifting a lot of weight. Okay, so I'm sitting there like, okay, I've done powerlifting a little bit, but I'm now head coach of girls powerlifting. Not exactly the route I thought I would go.
Yeah.
But something that I learned from my family, my mom and dad taught me this, and then just scripturally, being if you're in charge of something, your name's on it. And so it better be the best. Like, God doesn't give you something and expect you to go halfway. So this was just kind of thrown on me, and I was like, all right, well, if we're going to do this, then we're going to be the best. And this was back in 2021. And so I went and studied some of the best winners there were, guys who had won this thing and won state championships. And I read a great book called What It Takes to Be Number One by Vince Lombardi's son, about Vince Lombardi. Great book. If you need a great book to read, What It Takes to Be Number One, and just what the process is of a winner is and what a mindset is. It was a great book. But applied some of those principles. And then we went from a program of 6 girls, barely a live program, to winning a state championship 4 years later. Wow. And so that process, so when I say, and I said this at the seminar, I'm not just telling you things that I just pulled from the book and threw it in there. I've lived these principles of leadership, and I've seen them work, and I've seen them come to fruition. And so the thing I noticed was that there's an interior side when it comes to leading, and then there's an exterior side. So interior is what I call the win the day, because that's a mentality. And the first thing, there's 3 things I think you have to do to be a great leader when it comes to mentally. And the first one is this: you have to know yourself. You have to know who you are. Questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I trying to accomplish? If you can't answer those questions for yourself, how on earth can you lead someone else?
Can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this answers 100% what I have on the background of my phone. You can't really see it because I got it magnified, but when everyone feels self-doubt, everyone has this, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, or I'm not going to be able to accomplish it, whatever. We have that, devil on our shoulder and the angel, however, good wolf, bad wolf, you've heard
Right.
it be
Sure,
told
sure.
multiple ways. So in my journey of leadership, I finally, before I stepped into my own, I had to face my fears and I had to face my weaknesses. And in order to sharpen myself and move forward,
Mhm.
that means I have to acknowledge where I lack and then keep going. So I have a contract with myself, and that contract's on the back of my phone. And I actually used to write it on my bathroom mirror. So brush my teeth, I'm staring at my contract. It says, I am, right? Because God says, I am. Like,
No
like
doubt.
that's a powerful statement. So we're made in his image. When we say I am, we're commanding authority over ourselves.
Mm.
Here we are. We're showing up. We're present.
I like
We're
it.
being accounted for.
I like it.
I am a powerful, inspiring, loving leader.
Mm.
That's my contract. And so anytime I ever feel self-doubt, not good enough, unsure, like I just can't do it, like I'm never going to be good enough. Like it's that constant second place mentality or not even on the podium mentality.
Right.
It's like, no. Once again, I got this cuz I'm powerful. I'm inspiring. I'm a loving leader. Powerful, inspiring, loving leader, and I get to mantra that to myself over and over and over. It's like a little engine that could. I think I can. I think I can.
Yeah.
I think I can. I know I can. I know I can. I did. Like, let's go, baby. And I'm getting riled up. We should have a crowd right here. Let's get a stadium going of inspired human beings across
And
this world.
let me tell you, there's nothing more exciting or inspiring than setting a goal for yourself and saying, even my self-doubt, hey, I'm gonna go shoot for this. When you accomplish that goal, even through your self-doubt, even through the days you're struggling, even through the grind, I call it, where you're just struggling to get out of bed, but then you accomplish what you set out to do, there is not a bigger high on this planet. If you could take that feeling
Mhm.
and bottle it up and sell it, no one would ever do drugs.
Yeah.
Because the feeling, and I love I think Teddy Roosevelt said this. No, I think Vince Lombardi did, based on something Teddy Roosevelt said. But basically, like, there's not a better feeling than falling exhausted on the field of competition, knowing you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. And that's such a great line. Like there's not a better feeling in the world of just exhausted,
Yeah.
but we did it.
Yeah.
And that's a great feeling through all the trials and all that. So, man, you've got to know yourself. And I'll be honest, that might be the hardest thing when it comes to leading, because you have to, I call it, you have to embrace the ugly. Like, you have to embrace the monster. You hear that sometimes.
Oh yeah.
There are things about myself I don't like. And there are things about myself I do not do well.
Yeah.
And a great leader has to embrace that, because if you don't embrace where you're not doing things well, there's a gap where the enemy, whoever that is, whether that be Satan in your spiritual life or the enemy in just the sense of accomplishment, that there's a crack in your foundation. And if you don't know how to fill that crack, you're going to fall. And how can you ever lead someone else if you can't even lead yourself?
Correct.
And so that's the kicker. So that first one, right out of the gate, is the hardest one of you got to know yourself. And that's tough, man. That's tough to look in the mirror and embrace, hey, the good, the bad, and the ugly, this is who I am. Now, I can always try to be better.
Mhm.
I can strive to be better. But let's be honest, there's some things I'm never going to be great at, but I can fight that battle. And I got to know what that battle is. That's that self-reflection of knowing what you're good at and what you're not.
Yeah. And lean towards your tendencies of being good.
And so you're so right. So there's a thing where we have this mentality of where I'm bad, I really have to focus. I'll be honest, as I've gotten older, I'm the opposite now. Hey, where you're really good, focus even more.
Yeah.
Instead of being good at something, be great at it.
Mhm.
And then where you're bad, you could spend a little bit of time. Let's get from bad to fair. But people always think, oh, I've got to focus on what I'm bad at to get that right. I'll be honest, don't.
Yeah.
Focus on what you're good at and become great at it.
Yeah.
Be so good at it that I'd rather come to you than go to Google, because you know more about this thing than Google does.
Be a master of your subject.
Yeah, master of your craft.
Yeah.
Like, be the one who knows it better than anybody else, and then you can work on your stuff if you're not great at it.
Right.
But that's kind of a strange mentality that I was. But then I've kind of flipped of, hey, focus on what you're good at and become great at it.
Mhm.
Be great at what you're good at.
Well, you're an educator and you're a coach, so you know that the best way to know something is to teach it.
No doubt.
There's no better accountability than to be put on a stage to have to reteach that to other people. you got a sticker right here by that coffee cup, and that is mentorship is conservation. So this platform is based around the whole idea is if you want hunting to last for generations to come, if you want the lifestyle of being able to be self-reliant, courageous, self-provider, all that to last, wild animals, wild places, wild things, then it takes you investing in the hearts and lives of other people.
Mm.
And you don't have to know it all. You just have to know how powerful it is and how life-transforming something is, and then to share it, give it away.
That's right. And that's where that passion comes in of, let me tell you something. When you love something, you should be passionate about it. And that passion is very contagious.
Yes.
And as far as education goes, I love this. In coaching, this is kind of a principle. Hey, when you're coaching, just be yourself. Because if you try to be something not yourself, kids will see right through that. When you're teaching and you might be up there just kind of shooting from the hip, kids will see that. They're not dumb. They can read the room. So don't try to be fake. Be real and be genuine. They'll get more respect out of you for that, actually. And don't try to fake it till you make it, because they'll see right through that in a hurry. Kids are smarter than what you think, and they'll see through that education-wise, no doubt.
Yeah, and one of the best things is, I'm a father of 3 young boys. You got how many kids?
I got 2. I got a daughter and a son.
Yeah. When my kids ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I don't know, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you.
That's a great answer. I saw the funniest meme the other day, and it said, back when I was a kid, I looked at my parents when they were in their 30s, and I thought, oh, they've got it all together. They know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I'm in my 30s now. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, I thought my dad and mom had it all figured out. It's so stable. They got it. Now I'm like, I have no clue what is happening right now.
Yeah.
And just trying to go day to day almost, of just staying one day ahead. And I'll tell my kids that, sweetie, I'll be honest. I have no idea what we're doing today. Haven't even looked at the calendar. I don't know what's got planned, but we'll figure it out. Okay, like we're just one day ahead.
We have family movie night here on Fridays. Friday night, kids get on the couch. Mom and dad will join them at some point, after things get taken care of. And I stood there in the kitchen one night, and this was a couple months ago. It's like pretty recent. I'm looking at my 3 wonderful boys and my wife and our 2 dogs and our fish on the sink counter and our 13 chickens out back, and I'm just like, and I said to my wife, I go, at what point did I make the decision to be responsible for so many lives, right? And here we are in our 30s and our 40s, or however old you are, you always in your head think you're a certain age. My wife and I, she's like, I'm forever 23.
Sure.
I'm like, I'm forever 28, 29. Like that was like the years that I feel like I had it together. Or,
sure.
I still had my athleticism. I was in shape. I still felt good, but yet I was accomplishing things. Anyways, the whole point is like, here we are. Like, it doesn't ever just get easier, right?
No.
We have to constantly stay on it.
And that's that win the day. I'm like, every day's a battle.
Yeah.
Every day's a battle. And I get a lot of inspiration from my wife, who's just a trooper and who's been through a lot. So she was in the medical field for a while and for a long time, and then went through some COVID stuff when COVID hit. And she was at Austin in the first ICU in Texas before this thing even really had a name. I mean, she was saying something was just weird. People were sick and they didn't know why. And before it even really hit of what that was. And she had to go through that stuff for like 2 years. And it was just a grind. I mean, you could just tell it just wore on her. There's a reason why she's out, and she's in the education field now.
Yep.
But man, she just had to grind through that, and it was a battle every day. And so, her faith was so important to give her strength. And faith is such a, like, I don't know how faith-based you get on these conversations.
As much as you want,
You're
brother.
talking to me right here. Yeah. Like, I'm telling you right now, like, I don't know how people make it without Jesus. I'll just say that right now. When I read the Bible and get inspiration from him and what Jesus did for me and how it literally says he holds me in his hand because, God, I got no strength. And there was times Char had no strength, and she just was trying to grind through that stuff. Every day's a battle. And what I learned through some of those incidences is that how quickly life can change. You kind of get in this routine of, okay, this is how life is. And in 10 years, this might happen. And in 20 years, this might happen. And we realized on a dime. I mean, do you remember when the start of that? It was, hey, we're going to go 14 days to let the curve drop. Then we're back to normal life. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Like, then a year later, we're still going through this stuff.
So it brought me to Texas.
It's
like, why?
You and I talked about that. Yeah, that's why you came down. Like, it was like, whoa, like this was supposed to be a 14-day curve. And years later, we're still dealing with the ramifications of that. And I got to say this, I'm not super proud I watched this, but my wife and I, during those 14 days of not being at work, totally binged Tiger King.
Yeah, of course. Okay? Everyone did.
Like, I'm sitting on the couch at 3 a.m. because we binged it all like in one night. I'm like, there's a worldwide virus out. We're not going to work, and we're watching Tiger King. Like, what has happened to the world that a week ago none of this was going on? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like this revelation of what is happening right now. And that is some crazy stuff on that show. Wow, that was wild. But it just showed me how quickly life can change. And so this mindset of, hey, it's a battle, and that means battles are going to throw you curveballs. Like, you have to be ready and have a foundation of knowing who you are and what you believe, because when life starts throwing stuff at you, because it will, if you don't know who you are, what you believe, you're going to be washed to the wayside. You're not going to make it. I mean, and much less lead someone else. And so the first part of that win the day mentality, which is the mental side of it and the interior side of it, is you have to know who you are. And that requires a little bit of digging. But when you do that, you will be all the stronger because of it.
Yeah.
And you embrace who you are, and people know who you are. And then you become consistent, you become accountable, and they know what they're going to get with you. And people love that. People don't like wild cards. Okay, it makes them nervous. Mavericks make them nervous, right? Like I like to think of myself as a maverick, but really, I'm pretty consistent in what I think. I don't stray too much from what I think or what I do.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the first part, is that. And then the second thing we talked about, if you want to be a great leader mentally, is what I call daily disciplines. And so discipline is literally like a brick building a house or building a fortress. And what's funny is you don't build a fortress in a day. It takes day to day. There are daily disciplines that I've studied. I've read what some coaches do, what some CEOs do, very successful people do. What are some daily things they do? And there was like 10 of them that I kind of kept seeing the same things over and over again.
Yep.
But some of these daily disciplines, and one of them was, we talked about this earlier, was study your craft. I after doing this, I studied for a little bit, and what I found out is in a 24-hour period, and you know the answer to this because I did it, so there you go.
Yeah.
But I would ask, how much time is a 24-hour period is 1% of your day? And you should know the answer. It's 15 minutes. It's actually 14 minutes and 24 seconds. But 1% of your 24-hour day is 15 minutes.
Right.
So, like, if you just spend 1%, that 10,000 hour kind of mark you're talking about, if I just spend 15 minutes a day studying my craft, I'm going to master that in a matter of no time. And so there's these daily disciplines that successful people do where just, it's not a lot of time. We're busy. I get it. You don't need to spend hours. But there's little things we need to do on a daily basis that help us build success. And discipline is everything.
I saw this on social media today, so I screenshot it. That's why I grabbed my phone. It says, if you do 4 hours of deep work per day, walk 10,000 steps per day, exercise 3 times per week, save 20% per paycheck, sleep 8 hours per night, read 10 pages per day, you're ahead of 99% of the population. Keep going.
And it's like there's nothing on there that was that wild.
Right.
But those are those daily disciplines, just little things that when they stack up become big things.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be a great leader and be able to lead yourself, you got to have discipline. Discipline is key. It's doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. Because so many times we get to where I don't feel like doing it. Well, I don't care if you feel like doing it. You're going to do it. Now, that's the coach coming out of me. Okay?
Right. Yes, coach.
That's easy to do it as a coach perspective. Personally, it's a little bit harder to convince myself of that sometimes. Like, you're tired and working and hadn't slept a lot, and you're like, but it's the grind. You got to follow discipline. And any great athlete or great coach or anybody who's accomplished anything knows that discipline is the key. You got to stay consistent. Half the battle is showing up, right? Being that disciplined person.
What's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life?
Probably going through cancer.
Okay.
So when I was 26, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. So I was actually at two-a-days, okay, and I'm coaching. And, when you're at two-a-days, you're on your feet for a long time.
Yeah.
So my back was kind of hurting. But my back always hurt around two-a-days. I didn't think anything of it. But it was a little different because I was, like, waking up at night, like, with my back hurting. And I was like, this is weird. This is a little more than normal. But just thought I'd push through it and grind through it. Well, one day, and I don't be too crude here, one day I'm in the shower, okay? And I'm just showering away, da-da-da-da. And I noticed that some stuff down there, one's a little bit larger than the other, okay? And I'm just telling all my young men out there, you need to check this because it's a real deal. So, I'm like, whoa, like one's about 3 times bigger than the other one. And so I yell out, Char, I need you to come look at this. And no lie, her response was, I'm not falling for that again.
Does this look like a hemorrhoid to you?
That was her answer. I'm not falling for that again. I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, I need you to look at this. So she was in the medical field. So she looks like, whoa, we got to go.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to a doctor right away, realize I'd had testicular cancer. And the reason my back was hurting is because it had spread up into the lymph nodes in my back.
Mm-hmm.
It was becoming lymphomic cancer. And after meeting with doctors, they said that it was going to eventually go up my brain, up to my brain, and it could kill me. And so I was like a level 3 or something, which is pretty high. And so after they did some surgery, they said, you've got to do chemo. Because with those surgery, we'll remove some of the cancer, but you've got to do chemo. And if I ever find this doctor, I'll kill him, okay? But like playfully, but seriously. He told me, he goes, look, man, you're young. You played college, like 26. You played college football. You're in good shape. We're just going to hit this hard, okay? Get it done, and you can get back to it. So I'm thinking as a young man, great, let's do that. That was the dumbest decision I've ever done in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That I would have to sit there for 1 week, 5 hours of chemo a day. So I'm just sitting there with that, and I say poison because I mean it.
Yeah, that drip.
Poison just pouring into you. So for 5 hours a day, I had to do that for a week. Then I'd get off for the weekend. I'd go a Monday and a Monday. So that was my one cycle. I had to do that 3 times. And so by the second cycle, I'd lost all my hair. I was puking every day. There was one day, this is not an exaggeration, I threw up 26 times in one day because your body's it's poison, and it's trying to get rid of that junk. You could taste it. It tasted like metal. Everything tasted like metal. So even the relief of when you did want to eat, which wasn't often, the taste of it was wrong. So even the mental aspect of it was just a grind. It just hit you. And so it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done because I just wanted to die. Mm-hmm. Like there was a point I rolled out of bed, lost about 40 pounds, just sick to my stomach. And I told my wife, I said, baby, I'd rather die. And this was one of the most compassionate things she ever did. We just had a 1-year-old daughter, okay? Mm-hmm. Leans over, pats me on the back, goes, sweetie, I know you're hurting, and I love you. Now get your butt out of that bed. We got to go. And just pulled me up, and I didn't have the strength to fight her. And she just pulled me out and threw me in the car, and we went.
Yeah.
But that was one of the hardest things. And what was even harder was is that I didn't know it at the time. It all was kind of a blur. But my wife was actually pregnant at the time, and she had a miscarriage during that.
Oh.
And so she's trying to take care of me, take care of our 1-year-old. I'm still trying to work a little bit just to make money, but I'm hardly able to work. She's working extra shifts to try to keep the bills paid. My church was great. My family was great, but there's only so, it's a lot. And on the top of all that, she had a miscarriage in the middle of it. And I felt terrible because I barely remember some of it, and then I certainly wasn't there to help comfort her through that. And so it was a very difficult spiritually, mentally, emotional time, and that was the hardest thing I've ever been through.
So when you're going through that experience, and by the way, thanks for sharing. That's it's a powerful story right there. You're talking about winning the day and that leadership and that small things, brick by brick, that ends up building that castle. What was the things that you were focusing on to get you through that eventually got you to a point where you're like, okay, I got this?
So that's a great question. And what's funny is as it progressed, because this took about 3 months to get through it all, it would change from time to time. It might be something else. So at first, obviously I was clinging to my faith. Like, Lord, this is a trial. You're putting me through this trial. I'm going to be like Job. I'm gonna handle this, but I'm not going to question like Job. I'm going to be legit and all that. Oh, no, I questioned. I struggled. I was like, God, what are you doing to me? Like, it was tough. So, but I clung to my faith, and I really tried to go through that trial as best I could, to show that I praise God when things are good, and I praise God when things were bad. Mm-hmm. And I can honestly say I did do that, but it wasn't every day. Every day, some days I struggled, and like a human being does. But one was my 1-year-old daughter. I mean, I can either quit this and die, or I can keep pushing because she needs a dad. Mm-hmm. And so her being there, just sweet little 1-year-old, like I have to keep going for her. And it's funny when life hits and storms hit, you start realizing what's important in your life. And things that we think are important aren't so important anymore. And, like being a coach, having a career, like my goal is to be a head coach and, have the greatest team ever in the history of the world and all that stuff. And that was very important to me. Going through cancer, I couldn't even go to the field. I was so sick. And so that got removed from my life. Mm-hmm. And then I had to start realizing, no, your faith is what's important. Your relationship with Christ is what's important. Your relationship with your wife and your daughter and your family, that's what's important. And when everything kind of got pulled away that I thought was important as a young man, I realized, oh man, that this is what's actually important. And so it's funny, as we progress, it might have changed what I clung to, But the most important things in my life is what I realized is what I needed in my life.
Man, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the things I always, when I hear stories like that, it reminds me of, you ever see the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yes, bits and pieces. I'll never watch the whole thing, but I've seen bits and pieces, yes.
So when Ferris and his girlfriend are at the art museum and Cameron's standing like inches away from that picture, and when you look at the picture, all it is a bunch of dots, right? And you're too close to it, and all you can see is the dots. And you're like, oh, it's just a bunch of colors. But when you step back and you remove yourself and create distance, that distance allows you to see the whole beauty of what it is, and that whole picture comes together, and you're like, wow, that's a wonderful piece of art right there.
That is. And I'm telling you, like, that's, and being a Christian, that's your whole life. You're stuck in this little bitty bubble of your life, and you think this is the world, this is the universe. And then when things happen, it gives you better perspective of where when you step back and realize, oh, I'm just a very small part of God's grand plan. And I may not fully understand why I'm going through this, but there's a purpose behind it. And so if he wills it for me to go through this, then I'll go through it. And then we'll see on the other end. A little bit of that answer was, that question was answered when people said their faith was encouraged because we went through that. So maybe that was just for someone to be encouraged. And that was, I don't know what the full story was because it hurt and I did not like it.
Yeah.
But it was hard. But there was a purpose behind it. And you're right. That perspective is everything because it gives you peace, I think, in understanding why this is happening to a degree.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people out there that play the woe is me, the victim mindset of they made me do it, or it's not my fault, or, I must be nice, but ultimately, if we can shift the idea that life happens for us, even no matter how sucky your cancer was or the miscarriages or all this, and I don't want to downplay the pain and the sorrow and what you experience. And I've experienced stuff, my wife has experienced stuff. We all as humans, it's called the human experience, we experience life. But that life happens for us. It doesn't happen to us.
Right.
We're not victims. And a part of what you were talking about that it really resonated with me is you have to know yourself, step one, because when you know yourself, that allows you to put a rudder, like a ship, in that water, and that way you can actually dictate where you want to go. Because without that, you're just a log floating on a stream and getting pushed wherever.
And I think we talked about that in the lesson. I said, I don't care how big or powerful your ship is. Okay. And then we talked about the USS Gerald Ford, like the largest aircraft carrier in the history of the world.
Right.
Okay. Like the admiral that was in charge or helped build it or in charge of it or something, they said, why'd you build this? To help destabilize nations. Like that was his answer to this ship. Like what a baller answer. Okay.
Right.
You can control a section of the world with this ship. If that ship doesn't have a rudder, it's useless. And it's something you never see. It's usually hidden under the water. You never even really think about. But if that ship doesn't have a rudder, it's pointless.
Yeah.
I don't care how big it is. That ocean is going to put it wherever it wants to put it.
Yep.
Well, the life is that ocean. And if you don't have a rudder that says, this is who I am, you're going to get pushed wherever. Mm-hmm. And that even goes into our faith. It says, by the winds and the sea will push you wherever. Because if you don't believe in this, you're going to be pushed by the winds and the waves. And who knows where you're going to end up. You'll believe anything.
Yeah.
So there comes a point you have to say, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And this is where I'm going, regardless of who goes with me or not. And that takes some maturity and some growing, but it also gives you peace because you know who you are. Like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
I can be better in some areas, but in other areas, I'm like a tree and I'm planting myself, and this is who I am.
Yeah.
And so when you know yourself and you have those daily disciplines, you're going to be successful in leading yourself in that mental aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, and then we kind of hit this a little bit, was the last thing to be a great leader and lead yourself is to have what I call a healthy nucleus. Any cell has a nucleus. And if that nucleus is healthy, the cell's healthy. I think we went to like an atom. Atom has a nucleus. If it's healthy, atom's healthy. That revolves in our life too. If your inner circle, which by that I mean the people you keep in your inner circle, if that's a healthy thing, you will be a healthy person. Mm-hmm. But that inner circle is not just your buddies. It's not just, passerbys. It's not just anybody you throw in there. I'm talking like, I call them blood brothers. I mean, they may not even be family. They could be family, but I mean, a brother from another mother, like iron sharpens iron. I mean, someone in that, maybe 1 to 3 people.
Call them 3 a.m. friends.
That's exactly right. Like a great friend will help you move, a best friend will help you move a body, that kind of thing. Like that's the guy, 3 a.m. friend. Like I can call you, that's exactly right. These type people. If you have an inner circle or a healthy nucleus of about 3 people, that you will go to war with. Hey, man, I need you. No questions asked. They're there. Be very careful who those people are. Because if they're people that are good people that love you and will actually tell you stuff you don't want to hear sometimes, but you need to hear it, if that nucleus is healthy, you'll be a great leader and you'll be a great person. If that nucleus is unhealthy and you have allowed people to influence you in that inner circle and it's an unhealthy nucleus, you will not be successful. And so you've got to be very careful who you let in that inner circle because they're going to have more influence. These are people you go to for wisdom. Like, what do I do here?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big question. You better be able to trust who that person is to give you great advice.
And the Bible says in the multitude of counselors, there's safety.
There's safety, right? Exactly. Like, you
So-
better not be making these decisions by yourself. You better surround yourself with people wiser than you that can help you make these decisions.
Right. So that is like, how much do you resonate on this every day? Like, you know this, and
You know, it's I mean, it's funny. Like, you know this stuff too.
Yeah.
There's probably nothing I've said that you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or I've thought of that. And I bet anybody listening, oh, there's nothing I've said that just blows your mind, right? I'm not like, Aristotle just dropping crazy stuff on you. This is stuff you know. And anyone who's been around great leaders or great structure or the faith knows some of these things. The thing is sometimes we don't organize it, I guess you should say, and actually apply it to our life. So I know I'm supposed to surround myself with good people. Great. That's a great principle. Who are my people? Can I name them right now?
Yeah.
If you're listening, can you name 3 people right now that are 3 a.m. people that can give me advice when I need it? And if you can't answer them, now you need the practical side. Go get some.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
David, we have to be disciplined. Nobody would disagree. You got to be disciplined to be successful. What are you doing to be disciplined? Are you studying your craft? Are you reading every day? Are you, what are you saving that money? And whatever it is, are you being disciplined in your life? So it's funny. You're like, yeah, you know all this stuff. Yeah, but so do you. I just put it in a way that helps me remember it. Like I can remember these things because that's just how I've kind of organized it.
Yeah.
And seen success with it. But there's leadership. It's strange. It's one of, and I'll be honest on this. It's one of the least taught subjects, to be honest, but the most important.
Yeah.
John Maxwell said it best. He goes, you want the biggest impact on an organization? It's leadership development. We pump so much money in our companies, in our schools, in our programs with systems and programs and data and all these. When the greatest investment you can make are your people.
The heart.
It's to make what you talk about all the time. You want conservation stuff? You got to reach people.
Yeah.
I don't care how much data you have or how many systems you have or how many computers you have. That stuff's great. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
But if you don't have people that are bought in, hook, line, and sinker, it's not going to matter. And so it's amazing when you teach people how to be great leaders and how to take the situation around them and make it better. It's amazing how most of your problems disappear. Like, it's great. Like, if I teach people how to lead, 90% of my problems disappear. So invest in your people more than you are programs and systems.
Yeah. I'm going to use a parenting example right there. Is my wife and I, one of the hardest part is, and at one point I wanted to write a book called Hands Off Leadership.
Okay.
Right? Because in order for good leaders to teach other people, we also have to provide them opportunities. And it's hard to let go. That locus of control is like, okay, I can just do this myself real quick. I can just get it done. Bada bing, bada boom, move on.
You're preaching to the choir. It's hard for me sometimes.
And yet, watch your kids or, Dad, I want to learn I want to do this with you. Okay, but I'm on a schedule or like, that's hard as a parent, as anyone, not just a parent, but like anyone to be like, I can efficiently do this better, quicker, faster, energy, time, money, whatever. Why should I give you an opportunity? Why should I have patience to watch you, to mentor you, to coach you, to
probably watch you to maybe do it wrong?
Yes.
Just to tell you now how to do it right.
Right.
And that's what I mean by that. Like, we all know we should give opportunities like that, but now we have to practically do it, right? And so, like, you're exactly right in sense of like, hey, I'd rather just do it faster and get it done and not worry about it. But that's not a mindset of really leadership, like you said, or even a mindset of discipleship. Like, my job is to teach you. I heard a great pastor say it like this. He said, I'm trying to preach myself out of the pulpit. And I thought that's a great line. The minute he gets up there, my job is to teach you how to do my job.
Yeah.
And then I preach myself out of a pulpit. That's discipleship.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly the best definition of discipleship. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. And that's leadership. Leadership is just, I'm going to show you from my experiences how I do this and how I would do it. And then I'm going to let you go for it. And what's great is people find different ways to do it that's better than the ways I did it. Isn't that great? Like, hey, that's way better than the way I'm doing it.
Yep, 100%.
But that's giving people the chance to do that.
So one of the most fascinating things is that a lot of people don't understand, and this comes specifically to leadership, is you have to believe in yourself. You have to vote for yourself. And I had a conversation, you and I are both social studies teachers.
No doubt.
I love referring to the U.S. Constitution.
I see it sitting right there. Yep, right there. I love it.
Big fan. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. Number one, we got to know words. We got to know definitions. We got to, and be able to speak. I had a podcast I was a guest on recently. I told the guys, like, man, if your dad just stood there and stared at you and in his head was thinking, I love you, son, but he never spoke it to you, you go your whole life without knowing your father loved you. Well, but I thought it. It was in my head. No, it's a spoken word. The spoken word has the power to bring life or death, sharper than two-edged sword.
That's right.
And so for us to speak and to speak clearly, with clarity, with purpose, with precision, is powerful. And don't speak more than you need to, right? 2 ears, 1 mouth.
That's right.
How this all ties back into voting for yourself and is you have to love yourself. And you can't love others and you can't lead others until you love yourself, till you value yourself, find that you are worthy of a life, that you are worthy of a better life, that you are worthy of the best life. The American dream, right? Envision it, dream it, think it, speak it, build it, create it. You want the life, you want to be a millionaire? Go be a millionaire. It's possible. You just happen to choose to be a teacher instead. Or, and I'm speaking to myself. Right?
That's right.
Like
I became a teacher for the glory and the money. That's exactly right.
Ultimately, it comes down to how bad do you want it?
Right.
What are you willing to trade? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to exchange in order to accomplish your goals? Right here, I got a bunch of popsicle sticks. And to you, this is just a bunch of popsicle sticks rubber band. But to me, this was the very first time in my life. Well, no, I take that back. Second time. The first time, this represents me voting for myself. So the very first time I voted for myself was when I chose to become a hunter. Because up until that point, I was self-reliant on everyone else. I lacked the first known quality of mankind, which was courage. I was afraid. I was a scared little boy, even in my 20s. And that stems from a lot of childhood trauma and the experiences in which I had, which comes from black bears, and which I have listeners, I got a giant picture of a bear right here with eyes that just pierce into you. I was afraid of bears in the woods. Like I thought that they were going to come kill me and eat me and ruin my life. But yet there's something about it that I had to face my fear. We always have to face our fears. When we face our fears, we grow, we become more powerful, we step into our own. Ironically, or no irony, is that was the very first animal that I ever killed, and that's what kicked off everything here with Soul Seekers. Going back to the popsicle sticks, so that was the first time I voted for myself when I said, I'm choosing the life that I want. This was the first time that I stepped into my role of leadership. And I was in a leadership experience, and I can't give this away because all you listeners, if you ever want to experience this, I don't want to ruin it for you because it's life transforming. But we had to go around with 200 other people in a room, and there was 8 chairs. And if you wanted to be one of the 8, you had to get enough votes to be one of the 8. But it didn't matter how many votes you received. If you never voted for yourself, if you never saved one popsicle stick for yourself, you could never be at the table as a leader. Because regardless of how much we give, if we don't love ourselves, it doesn't matter, right? You fly on an airplane, that stewardess gets on the flight. yeah, we're going to be on a 2-hour flight. Thanks for joining us. And in case of emergency, remember there's going to be oxygen masks that drop from the ceiling. And remember to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping anyone else. The point of that is you, number one, know thyself. Know yourself. You got to be willing to vote for yourself. You think President Trump came around this last election and voted for Kamala Harris?
I'm going to bet probably not.
Hell no. Like, no way.
Yeah, I'm going to bet
right?
probably not.
But yet, how often do we in society go and vote for other people when we know that we're worthy?
Yeah, it comes from your self-worth of like you said, who you are and what your value is and what you place on your value. And you're right. And we have a world that, and I think it's worse now than it's ever been because of technology, of influences, excuse me, influences that are negative and that like social media is the worst because you compare.
Mm-hmm.
And when you compare, then you start thinking, oh, I'm not that good, or I'm not this person, or look what they're accomplishing. And it's all fake. Like my wife and I and our kids have been screaming at each other just to get a picture. Then we get this nice little 1-second picture of we look beautiful.
Yeah.
My wife does a great job. We look great.
Yeah.
And then we go back to fighting again. I go, it's all made up, and we compare. And I saw a great quote that said, envy is the robber of joy.
Yeah.
And
Teddy Roosevelt says comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, there you go, thief of joy. There you go. It's probably coming from that. Like it's the thief of joy when you compare and you place your value on what other people think or what other people look like. You're setting yourself up for failure. And as far as my life, and this for anybody else out there, my value really can't even come from what I think sometimes because sometimes I don't think very highly of myself. And my value, I have to go back to what Scripture says. And what does God say who I am? And because if I just go 100% on what I think about myself, there's days I have bad days, and I think, man, you are a piece of crud. Like you ain't worth nothing. Okay, like you are just the worst. And if I sit in those thoughts and just dwell in them, I go to a bad place. I have to go to a higher power of who do you say that I am, and that's where we cling to God's promises, where we don't always feel them, but you don't have to feel a promise. Like a promise is a promise. I don't care what you feel. And when I go that you're beautifully and wonderfully made, and I sent Christ to die for you, for goodness sake. He didn't die for trash. Like that, those thoughts give me back my self-worth of, okay, as bad as I feel I am, I'm God's.
Yeah.
And I'm saved through Christ, and I'm redeemed through him, and I have value. And Satan can't take that from me, and my own thoughts can't take that from me.
Yeah.
And you're right, like, vote for yourself. Like, you are good enough. And don't fall for the lie that you're not.
Right.
You are good enough.
Right.
Like, you can go take control of your own life. And we said this, like, I think I said this at the deal. I said, we have more control over our life than what you think. Now, we have this idea of, like, even people in the church, God plans everything. You're right, to a degree. I get what you're saying. But there's also times where I have to make a choice. I mean, there comes a point in my day, I make choices, okay? And we know that God doesn't always plan it because we make the wrong choices. And so I'm saying, so yes, God is divine, he's in control, but also there comes a point of we get a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
You have a lot more say in your life than what you think you do.
Yep.
And life just doesn't come down and say, all right, here you go. Here's what it is. And I think America is the greatest point of that. You have a country where literally you could be an immigrant who comes in and does it right and has nothing, okay? You can literally become whatever you want and accomplish whatever you want. That's what our forefathers did when they came here. Like, we all come from immigrants, and they came over here and they were nothing, okay? And then became whatever they desired to be just by the strength of their back and the sweat on their brow. They became what they wanted to be. And America's, I think, the greatest example of that, of the work you put in the mirror is what you'll get out of it.
Yeah.
And that's why I love this country. I think this country is great. Our freedoms are great. We have to protect our freedoms. We have to know our freedoms. And being a teacher,
Got to know it.
oh my gosh, being a teacher, boy, and I'm U.S. history, but boy, we talk a lot about government because you have to know what your rights are, because if you don't, they'll be taken away. You have to know your rights. And so we talk about that probably more than what we should in U.S. history because it's so important.
Well, that just means you're a good teacher, because at the end of the day, like, teaching to a test, come on.
And I get it.
Like, we're not training these kids to be yes men, right?
No doubt. That's not
Yes,
my
sir.
agenda anyway.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No doubt.
Yes, sir. No,
No.
go be a business leader. Learn
Yep.
how taxes work. Learn how the tax system and real estate works, so that you don't have to play the cycle of poor slavery towards the system.
Exactly.
Right.
And an uneducated populace is what a corrupt government wants.
Mm-hmm.
If you are, and why do you think if you look at any history book and read any history, like the first thing that's taken away is they start corrupting the education system, they take away the guns. When you do those two things, those people are helpless, okay? Like, so we got to protect education, and we've got to protect our Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
And what I love and what I love about this, and people of conviction do this, or they follow this, where freedom of speech. Okay, so if we're talking about freedom of speech, that means, yes, I get to say what I want, but it also means my enemy gets to say what he wants. And I've got to fight to protect what he says just as much as I fight to protect what I say.
Right.
And I can see when someone says it in a way like that I may not like what he's saying, but he has the right to say it. I can run with somebody like that. Because if you start silencing people because you don't like what they're saying, the next person to be silenced will be you. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going to say, this is our amendment, then you have to say, okay, right, wrong, or indifferent. We have to follow what the Constitution says.
Yeah. I share this quote a lot on this podcast, especially when I tie it into hunting, because hunting's always under attack, right?
Sure.
Like, this is a hunting podcast. It's a life podcast. Hunting is not a microcosm, a micro example of what real life is. Mm-hmm. It's constantly under attack, and in order for us to maintain it, we have to continue giving back into it.
Right.
Dr. Niemöller, passed World War II. First they came for the gypsies, and I wasn't a gypsy, so I didn't say anything. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I wasn't a trade unionist, so I didn't say anything. Then they came for the Jews, and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't say anything. Then they came for me, and there's no one left to speak.
Exactly. What
right?
a great quote.
Yeah.
Scary quote.
And so that is true. I apply it to hunting. First they came for the trappers, then they came for the houndsmen, and then they came for the predator hunters. Then they came for everyone. Mm-hmm. No one was left. The point is we got to be able to defend and articulate and to know a lot of. Let me choose my words here. NPCs. I like to non-playing characters, people that just go along to get along.
There's several of those out there nowadays.
Yeah. Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Several NPCs out there.
Yeah, where it's like, what do you stand for?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're history teachers, so, Abraham Lincoln, stand for something.
Or you'll fall for anything.
Exactly right there. So, like, what do you stand for?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you stand for something completely different than what I stand for, but at least you know what you stand for,
mm-hmm.
right? Because that way I know where you stand and I know where I stand.
And that's what it is. That's great. Even if I don't agree with you, we may not agree on anything, but I know where you stand. I can at least respect someone who stands for what they believe. What I have no respect for are people who don't believe in anything. Mm-hmm. You're just sheep, and you just go with whatever the flow is, and that's the problem. Like, I don't need sheep. I need, like we talked about the deal, like sheep, wolves, and lions, right? Like, sheep just kind of go with the flow. Wolves are leaders who use their position to prey on the sheep, and lions are the ones who do it because it needs to be done the right way. They're the good leaders, and that's the smallest percentage. I'm always trying to be that lion where I want to lead because it's the right thing to do, and I'm willing to lay down my life for the sheep. That was what the greatest leader ever did. Like, I love you so much, I'll lay my life down for you. Whereas the wolves take advantage of that position, and the sheep just go with the flow. Mm-hmm. And we have way too many sheep out there. Like, pick a side, dude. Like, let's find something you believe in and let's go. And that's why I love that leadership aspect of it. The very first rule is know who you are. Like, you got to know who you are and what you believe, or you have no business being a leader.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Big believer in that leaders are readers.
Love it.
So if you want to lead, which we all lead, we all have influence, we need to read.
Got to read.
Knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why book burning in history has been so important. Like,
one of those daily disciplines we talked about, very successful people read all the time.
Yeah.
And like I said, it may be 15 minutes. That's great. But you need to be reading something to push your knowledge and keep your IQ sharp and learn new things. And like, you got to read. You got to be reading.
What books have you read that have given you the greatest impact over time? Or what are you currently reading? Or, like, what are you doing that you're like, dude, this is so good, I got to share it?
Yep. So obviously, like, just Sunday school answer here. Read the Bible every day. Try to read the Bible every day. Influence on that. That's a huge influence in my life. Like I said, the book that made more impact on me in the coaching world, and even if you're listening and you're not a coach, if you're in the business world or any form of leadership, was the book I referenced earlier, What It Takes to Be Number One by Vince Lombardi's son. Mm-hmm. It is one of the most insightful books I've ever read. And I would, on our team, I made our leadership council, they had to read it. So, like, I had a leadership council, which you had to be voted on, and all these steps you had to do. And one of the things was they had to read that book, and we went through chapter by chapter on what is a leader, what is their job. And I love it. I actually got this from a movie, but it's a great quote. The first rule of leadership is everything is your fault. Now, I totally got that from A Bug's Life, okay?
Yes.
Like the grasshopper. And I'm like, but I saw that going, that's a great line because it's so true.
Right.
Like, first rule of leadership, everything's your fault. And you may have not even been near the problem. But if you're the guy in charge or the gal in charge and something goes wrong, it's on you. And you've got to be able to own that. And so he talks about that in that book and all the principles that apply for business and education and in sports. And it really did. If you want to be number one, you want to be the best you can be, here's the process to it. And there's some sacrifice to it, but there's also some great gains you can do from it. So I'd say that book, as far as my career, that book changed me. I've read it at least once a year, and just to kind of recap on it and to make sure I'm right on those things. Because they have a trophy named after him, for goodness sake. He knew what he was talking about.
Right.
And I'll just say this point, I'm really upset that 2 of those games could have been won by the Cowboys, and it could have been the Tom Landry trophy, but we lost in the Super Bowl. That's fine. No big deal. I'm not bitter about it
It's
at all.
kind of the MO of everything.
I'm not bitter about it at all.
Either you're coaching it that way or you're allowing it to happen.
Allowing it to happen. That's
Right?
right. Yep.
Either we are teaching the next generation or the new people or our employees or the sphere of influence that we have. Either we're teaching it a certain way or we're allowing it to happen.
Right.
And when we use the term allow, that means we're powerful and we have the power to stop it.
I like it. That's a good way to think of it.
Right? And so that's returning back to the ownership, like, Jocko Willenick, extreme ownership. Like, you got to own everything. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, I screwed up, or yeah, I'll take that responsibility, or I allowed that to happen and I won't allow that to happen anymore.
And that takes a strong person to do. People think you got to be strong all the time, and that's a huge no. And I've made this mistake. I can't show I'm weak. I can't show I'm wrong. I've got to be always strong and consistent. And I'll be honest, I think you gain more influence with people when you're like, nope, totally owned this one. I messed up on this one, but it won't happen again. Like when you own your mistakes, you become very relatable. I don't want perfect people because, first of all, there are none. And then 2, I want to be able to feel if you're leading me that it's okay to make a mistake. Like, matter of fact, if you're not making a mistake, you're not trying. So I'm not saying you keep making the same mistakes, but it's okay to make a mistake. I make them. Now let's fix it. Let's move on. And when you do that, you're very genuine like that. I'm telling you, that's a huge thing for getting people to follow you because you're real. And you're a real person and you make real mistakes, and then they get to see how you respond to that. And that just builds great leaders. Great for our kids too, like our children in general. Like, hey, Dad messed up. I made a mistake. I'm going to try my best not to do it again. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And what a great lesson that is.
I'm turning over to my library right here because I've read quite a few books that really impacted me. But these 3 right here are my books of if I could get everyone to read these, that'd be super awesome. First one is the Surrender Experiment. So it's the journey into life's perfection. The whole idea is that when we're constantly working towards perfectionism, we're missing opportunities to allow life to happen, right? That's where we are in control. We have our rudder, but at the same time, we're still dealing with nature. We're still dealing with life, the winds, the wave, the weather, stuff's still happening. And what happens if we just let go, right? We still have that rudder. We're still in control, but at the same time, let's see what happens. So that's the surrender experiment. Surrender to what's out there. Same author wrote the book Untethered Soul. Yeah, so
I've heard of that one.
These are both New York Times bestsellers. Author Michael Singer. And I'll just read real quick the top paragraph. It says, what would it be like to be free from limitations and soar beyond your boundaries? What can you do each day to find this kind of inner peace and freedom? The Untethered Soul offers a simple, profoundly intuitive answer to these questions. What I gathered from that book specifically, is I struggle with the idea of an inner voice. I talk to myself a lot. I'm constantly having conversations with myself.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
right? And it's and that book addresses well, who are you actually talking to? And then it gets into, well, who are you? It's very, psychological, deep in that regard. So if you're not into that, I don't know, maybe listen to the audio version. But the idea is like, who are we? Where are we? Where do we show up? Know yourself.
Know yourself.
Start first part of leadership. And then this one, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Powerful. Got put in an internment camp. His wife got put in an internment camp. She passed away. He ended up making it out and having the hope that she was still alive. And the idea that Bible, hope deferred makes the heart sick. When we can hold on to hope, when there is hope, then it gives us something to like continue on.
Absolutely.
And so this idea of, you know what, you may have testicular cancer right now, but there's hope. There's something better on the other side of this. You may be struggling financially. You may have lost your job. Your retirement savings might have just absolutely tanked. There's something better. Keep going. Keep fighting. It's worth it. You're worth it.
And like that's such a great point. And hope and belief are very interchangeable. And so I had a coach one time tell me this. He goes, if you're trying to coach a team and you just believe you're going to win, you get your teeth kicked in. Okay. And I was like, oh, he's right. Like you can't just believe like win. He goes, however, if you walk into a game and you don't believe you can, you won't win anything either. He goes, belief can't be the only thing, but it certainly has to be the first thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a great, I can like write that down. That was really great. Like you got to believe. I mean, there has to be a hope of, I can do this. I can get through this. Then the action starts. Can't just be hope. You can't just sit there and hope it happens and then it never would. But you have to have it first.
Yeah.
Of like, I can do this. And then your day-to-day struggle happens and you fight through it. And so you're exactly right. And so, those first three things of like, as far as winning the day, that mentality, that's what it is. The big part is you got to know yourself and then have some disciplines that give you success and then have that inner circle, that healthy nucleus that's going to help you be successful. And that's got to happen on an inner level. And like those are great books to read. I'm going to find some of those and read them. Those sound fantastic. But that's got to be what's going on in that inner battle of winning the day.
Yeah.
And then what I found is, and then seeing this is, once you've got that part down, the internal part, that then leads over to your external part. Now this is where I call it the fun. This is where the fun begins. Like that first step is hard. Like I got to look at myself. I got to be disciplined. I've got to surround myself with people who may tell me stuff I don't. That's tough, but it's necessary. Now it translates into now I get to lead others. And once I've got my core down on the inside, now the fun starts. And so then I call it lead the way. So to win the day, lead the way. Okay? And the other day we didn't get into this too much because I was trying to cram as much as I could in that 50-minute session. It's like a 4-hour deal. But now we're leading others. And the first thing, and this is the most exciting part when you lead others, is the first thing I do is got to have vision. And I love vision because it's like, where are we going?
Without vision, the people perish.
But that's it, man. I'm telling you. Like, you think I get a lot of these principles from? Like, good Lord. Like, I'm telling you, like, this stuff. People know this stuff. You just got to put it in a way you understand and then apply it. But like, vision, where are we going?
Yeah.
What do we want to accomplish? And I love this. If people aren't laughing at your goals, they're not big enough. And that's a pretty good ruler to measure things by. I remember saying, hey, when I had 6 girls in a program that I just took over going, hey, we're going to win a state championship in 4 years. We are going to win it. And
sure,
people
coach.
laughed.
Yeah, like
people
whatever.
laughed. They're like, oh, okay, sure. Like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Just they laughed. And I'll be danged if 4 years later we don't hold up a state championship trophy. And I'm like, and that was one of the most satisfying things in my life. And then who we had to beat to do it. I mean, a 3-time undefeated team. Hadn't lost a meet in 4 years up to that point. And we've got to beat them. We beat them by 1 point.
Wow.
I mean, just what a ride. But your goals, your vision needs to be something that at the time might even be impossible. Those are the only ones we're shooting for. Because what do you gain by shooting for something that's safe? Like, you don't gain anything. Let's shoot for something that people think can't happen, and then let's go make it happen.
Yeah.
And so that vision as a leader, and when you start saying that vision, and then you go, hey, guys, here's where we're going, that gets people excited. Like, oh, okay. And then you got to get them to buy into that vision. And that takes that people work of like, hey, man, let's go. Like, buy into this. We can do this. Let's go. And you'll start having people buying into that, and then your vision becomes their vision. And then it becomes their dream.
Yeah.
And then that's when the really exciting stuff starts happening.
You know what I love is hearing you talk about this is earlier I said the first known character of man is courage, right? Courage. When you are sharing the vision, you're having vision and you're sharing it with others, you are encouraging them. What you are doing is you are filling other people with courage.
Mm-hmm.
And you're filling them with the ability to become their own and saying, heck yeah, I can do this.
That is such a great point. And like, I love how courage is in encouragement. Like, and I love that because there's times I don't feel very courageous. I feel very, I don't want to say cowardly, but I'm just nervous. I don't know if I can do this. But when someone comes up, slaps me on the back, goes, hey man, you got this. Let's go get it. All of a sudden I feel like maybe I can do this. It's courage. Like literally you are putting courage inside a person when you encourage them.
Yep.
And so encouragement is so important. And there's all these stats and data of when you're in an environment that's very encouraging, how much more you'll succeed. I mean, it's a fact. It's the human psyche just does better when you're encouraged and encouraging. And I would tell my team when we were lifting, I call it the wall. Whenever you're squatting or benching or deadlifting and you hit that point where the bar just stops, okay?
Yep.
I call it the wall. Like it feels like it weighs 1,000,000 pounds and you're not going to get it up. I go, that's when I tell the teammates, start screaming and cheering and going nuts. And then you as a lifter, once you're about halfway up, start screaming. Let your voice out. Like when you let that out, that energy and that adrenaline will literally help you lift it. And it's not just I think it. There's data proving it.
Yeah.
Encouragement matters. And so when you've got this vision of, hey, let's go climb that mountain that looks impossible right now, and then you encourage people, they'll start believing they can do it. Even if you don't even know if they can do it, but they believe they can, and that's the first step to it.
There you go.
That's it, man.
You never believe it, you'll never
do it. It can't be the only thing, but it dang sure has to be the first thing.
Yeah.
And so just get people to believe, and then throw that vision out there, and let's roll.
Beautiful.
It's fun, man. It's fun,
dude. We got to do this podcast in the morning so that we can go accomplish.
Dude, no
our
doubt.
day.
Like I just want to go run through a wall right now, or something.
Right? Like, let's go.
Just run through a wall, man. Let's go.
Oh, that's why no one will ever remember your name.
That's exactly right. What a great line. That's right. That's right. Yeah. I'd never fight him. That's why no one will remember you. Like you got to kind of have that go-getter mindset. And here's the deal: if you fail, you fail. Yeah. Okay. What does it matter? And I know it's such a corny saying, but shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land amongst the stars.
Yeah.
There is some merit to that. Just try. And what's funny is when you shoot for the impossible, that almost perfection, even if you fall a little short, you'll land amongst excellence. Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad place to land.
Right.
Like shoot for the impossible. And even if you come up a little bit short, you are so much further than where you were however far ago.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
just shoot for it, man.
Dude, you're inspiring. I got on my wall above my dinner table, I have Teddy Roosevelt's "Man in the Arena" quote.
Oh, he's great. I love it. I love it.
And I have my children read it daily.
I love it.
And I go, I'll buy you an ounce of silver, give you an ounce of silver, you memorize this. And,
love it.
And they
that's pretty long. That's a good little chunk.
And so I'm going to wrap up this podcast, if you don't mind,
sure,
with this quote, because I believe, dude, Teddy Roosevelt was the man.
I love that guy.
Savage.
Love that guy.
So cool. I mean, he got shot and continued on just giving his speech.
He knew as a hunter, hey, I'm not coughing up blood, so I'm good. I can still do this 3-hour speech, and then we'll go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, just what a baller.
So this is not the whole speech, everybody. The speech is a lot longer, but this is the main quote of the man in the arena. It says, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Amen.
Love it. I'm telling you, man, that's Teddy Roosevelt. He's great.
Dude,
great.
Powerful. Brother,
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for encouraging me in my journey of leadership. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for being here and sharing your love and your passion for this world with every single person that gets to encounter this podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. Guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, the best thing you can do is share it with everybody. Share it with your community. Have that sphere of influence. Be a leader. Talk about it. Leave a rating, review, comment, subscribe. Whatever you do, everything helps spread the mission of mentorship as conservation and the power of hunting. Because hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that you can never outgive good as mentorship is conservation. For Coach Rowe and myself here at Soul Seekers, be blessed, everyone. Freedom on, and stay soulful.
If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure.